Trails Collective, what's shaking? Ian here for the weekly rundown of the Northeast trail running scene for the week ending August 6th, 2021. In this episode, I will, make a media plug. We'll plug some of the events that are registrations, where registrations are open and about to cap out. We will weave in some voices from various events throughout the Northeastern region from this past weekend, and as well as some of the events that are still coming up in August. And then I am going to close out with a more of a, feature-length clip from a friend, Sayard Tanis, on another friend's pretty incredible venture in the Ouray 100-mile just a weekend or two ago. Pretty insane event in terms of just the beauty as well as the magnitude. And so I wanted to give it a little bit more airtime to dig into that, and I will plug that again here in a minute. So let's dig in. All right, in the media, shout out to Jerry and Pamela of Life is Trail Running on their YouTube channel. Jerry scored in picking off the most excellent Salomon trail bob hat that we still had here in the shop at the Finger Lakes Running Company. Too many awesome miles in that, buddy. And thanks for the shout out in the recent video entitled Salomon Bucket Hat 2021. We'll plug the link for you to check out. All right, some events coming up on the UltraSignUp Hotlist. In New York, Tesla Hurt runs, 100K and 10 miler slated for October 9th in Rocky Point, New York. Capped out as we projected this past week. Don't say we didn't warn you. Slots still do exist for the 100-mile option. It is a wonderful low-key event in Long Island. It uses 10-mile loops, I believe, and pretty rolling. So very much accessible to all levels of entrance. So get in on that while you can. In PA, the Red Barn Challenge, 6, 12, and 24 hours, slated for October 1st in Likens, PA, are 97% full with only 3 spots remaining as of, I think it was this past Monday or Tuesday. The event uses a flat grassy loop in repeat fashion for the time duration. In Virginia, Iron Mountain, 16, 30, 40, and 50 milers, the one that we have ranked in the toughest various divisions in the Northeast Trail Series on the feature articles page of the Trails Collective. They're slated for September 4th in Damascus, Virginia, and they are on the warning track at 91% full. Pretty, I think, good classic trail vibe down there. Courses aren't too technical, aren't too crazy, and a big shout out to a friend, Rachel Spalding, who hopefully is going to run really well. All right, in West Virginia, Cooper's Rock 50K and half marathon slated for August 21st in Brewston Mills, West Virginia, are 97% full. Only 8 slots remain as of this past Monday for a beautiful West Virginia course. All right, registration's opening this week. Actually, let's get there in a second. Let's do FKTs. There's, as I speak, there is a pretty awesome effort going down in the Adirondacks. It's one we mentioned last week. It's Bethany Gerritsen going after the Adirondack 46. Really incredibly burly event. Bethany's put up some pretty solid FKTs on various pieces of that up there. And she's got a pretty awesome crew assembled. And per the word of one of those crew members, after the first few days, she's in pretty good shape. She is on pace, but just having supported Sarah Kai's when she went after that last year, I just know how burly, really burly that effort is. So I can see you being in pretty good shape a few days in, but all bets are off once you get into that 4th, 5th, or 6th day. But Bethany is tough, and so I am wishing her and her crew continued strength to keep on. Also in New York, Justin Kowski, 12 hours, 51 minutes for the Devil's Path out and back. It's 44 miles with somewhere around 17,000 feet of elevation gain, so pretty stout. Justin lowered his own prior mark from October 2020 by 31 minutes. That's a solid 9-month fitness pickup. And Devil's Path is arguably one of the tougher stretches anywhere, and the Outback is pretty wild as an effort. In Connecticut, Sarah Ports Connor, 27 minutes, 53 seconds for the Pine Knob Loop, 2.6 miles with 850 feet of gain, lowers the prior mark by 15 minutes. Way to shave that off. And in PA, Bryn Cunningham, 2 hours, 25 minutes for the beautiful Quemahoning Reservoir Trail. So let's get into some results and voices from the collective. In New York, Beast of Burden, 25, 50, and 100 miles, ran in Lockport, New York, under the new management of Happily Running. The course is a flat and fast stretch of the historic Erie Canal towpath, and that can be, I guess, on one hand or one level, all comers, very welcoming, don't have to worry about technical trail, very well supported, accessible, and don't have to worry about really any elevation metrics one way or the other. That can also come back to bite you, where there's literally no time or excuse to rest out there. So pretty tough in that regard. And here to weigh in on that is friend and Trails Collective Patreon supporter and all around just great trail community member, Jeff Holbrook.
Hey Trails Collective, this is Jeff Holbrook coming to you with a quick rundown of the 2021 Summer Beast of Burden event that was held this past weekend in Lockport, New York. The trail is a 12.5 mile out and back from Lockport to Middleport and back, as many times as required for the distances you're going to do. There are a 25-mile event, there's a 50-mile event, and a 100-mile event, and you can pick whatever works for you. But it's interesting because you would think that this would be a really easy course. It's flat as anything. It's even more flat than most rail trail events. Most rail grades have some kind of grade to them. This being between locks on the Erie Canal has absolutely no elevation change unless you're crossing the bridges or something. So it's different, and I think it makes it really tough because like you're using the same muscles all the time. There's no excuse to walk like up a hill or anything like that, and it just grinds on you. And I think anyone who's done this event will probably agree with that. Maybe some of the elites wouldn't, but I tell you, for me it was tough. This race is kind of unique in that they have a winter and a summer event, and that makes it interesting to compare, you know, how the weather impacts things. And being near Buffalo, New York, the weather could be quite brutal, especially in the wintertime. Fortunately, this summer event, the weather was just about perfect temperature-wise anyhow. You know, lows in the upper 50s and highs in the mid-70s. There was a little bit of rain on Sunday, but those who finished on Saturday for the shorter events, it was just perfect conditions. This race has been going on since 2010, and I've done it several times, both in winter and summer, and you know, it's just neat to get out there and see friends that I haven't seen since the last time I ran it, which was in 2018. You know, anyhow, the race this year, the numbers were down, the entrance numbers were down because the race was on, then it was canceled, and then it was kind of in limbo for a while, but then Vin and Nicole Capadora picked it up with their Happily Running event group, and they just ran with it and did a great job. It's really interesting to see how well they did. The volunteers were very helpful, the aid stations were well stocked, and it was just a fun event, even though it was really tough. I really got to tell you, it's tougher than it looks on paper. You know, so if you're looking for a neat ultra or even sub-ultra event in upstate New York, I'd recommend checking this one out. You can do it in the winter. This February should be coming up in 2022, or next summer. So definitely give it a look and see what you think, but it comes highly recommended from this guy. So that's it for now. Jeff Holbrook from Corning. Peace out.
So well done out there, Jeff, and thanks for submitting that clip. And I think Jeff followed that up some back-to-back. He's up in Adirondacks picking off some peaks as well. So continually active. Nice work, man. Mighty Mosquito 99-miler and relay ran in Honeoye Falls, New York. Made use of 3 rolling loops of Mendon Pond State Park. And cool to see some people post on that. And one of them was one of my top finishers from Cayuga Trails this past year. And he was grateful enough, or I mean, I'm grateful that he was able to follow up with a clip here. Cruz Nieves. Take it, Cruz.
Hi everyone, my name is Cruz Nieves. I'm 30 years old. I've been running for about 2 years. I've done about only 2 ultras, 50 miler and 100 miler. Recently, a couple days ago, did my first 100 miler called Mighty Mosquito It was a fun race, I would say. It's a fun course. It's a loop course, so you have the ability to be at your aid station every 5.5 miles. There's 3 different loops. You get to do each loop 6 times, and then you move into the next loop. The first loop got about 900 feet of vertical. The second loop has 300 feet of vertical, and then the last loop has 600 feet of vertical, which it kind of adds up to like 11,000 feet of vertical. So it's kind of like a relatively flat course compared to other ultras that are out there. So I thought I would give it a chance. When I first heard about this race was about a year ago. I was doing a training run at Mendon Ponds Park in New York, Rochester, New York, and I didn't even know that there was an ultra locally, so it kind of like really caught me by surprise, and I was pretty impressed, and I said that one day I would do it. Not immediately, because it wasn't kind of like part of the plan, but as I was doing a race recently a few months ago, one of the race directors saw me at the course, and he said, "Hey, do you remember me? So-and-so, I did it's Michael Burt." He's like, I run the Mighty Mosquito. You came to my race last year. I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I remember you. So you should do my race." And I'm like, "Yeah, I would do it." And he really convinced me to, poach me to do the race. And I'm glad he did. I signed up for the race, did a really nice training block that I was really proud of. And then did my first 50 miler in between that. And then this weekend, it was pretty fun. Race started at 6 in the morning. I was like top 5 probably for the first 6, 7 loops of the race. Then around loop 9, I think I got to second place. And around like mile 60, I caught up to the first place in one of the loops to then show up like first place and the aid station. And from there I was first place until mile basically 88. At mile like 75, my calf started like really taking a beating. I think I strained it or tore it or something. And basically at mile 85, I couldn't run anymore. So I walked for the next 3 miles, and then I got passed by second and third place. I thought I had a pretty good lead on people. I actually thought that I had a whole loop on these 2 guys, but they were pretty solid. They were running really solid, and they really made me work for it. After they passed me, I don't know where I got the energy, but I started running again, and I really didn't want to let them have it. And if they were going to have it, they were going to have to fight for it. I wasn't going to let them have it that easy. We fought for it. Basically, it was a 5-minute difference between me and second and third place. Kline and Cruz really gave me a run for my money. It was a really fun race. I wasn't gonna, again, let them have it. I was running there for my people, my crew, who were there supporting me. Like, I would have not been able to do what I did if I wouldn't had such an amazing crew. And, my coach, Chris Lopez, was there, Aaron Dana paced me, and Alex, a bunch of people really, really helped me push myself when I wasn't really feeling like moving a little bit faster on the course. And it was kind of pretty awesome to do your first 100 miler and win it. I'm really, really looking forward to what else I can do in the sport. I'm really into it, and I appreciate the opportunity that you've given me, Ian, to be on the podcast and feature me for a little bit. So to everybody, hopefully I get to meet some more of you guys in some future races. Again, I'm Cruz, and I can't wait to race again. Thank you so much.
So well done, buddy. Sounds like he is rehabbing. I think he's got, can't remember whether you mentioned it in that clip, but maybe twisted branch on deck. But hopefully he is mending from that pretty awesome effort. Nice work, man. The Harriman Big Bear Squatch 7-miler and half marathon ran in Tuxedo, New York. One put on by the always fun crew at the Squatchatastic trail running crew. So Kim Levinsky and her community. And she was great. Connected me with one of my prior Cayuga Trails runners, Roselynn Bedoya. Roselynn, take us through the Big Bear Squatch 7-miler and half.
Hi, my name is Roselynn Bedoya, and I've been running with the Sassquad Trail Runners since the beginning, actually, since their very first event in 2018. I keep coming back to Kim's trail parties because she's been able to cultivate and nurture this incredible trail community that I'm a big fan of and love to be involved with. I love that her events always have a charity aspect to them. So I'm a big fan of that. She's introduced me to some amazing local trails with her events. So this past Saturday was a new trail for me. I participated in the Big Bear Squatch in collaboration with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference in Harriman State Park in Tuxedo, New York. They had two events, two distances, the 7-miler and the half marathon. They were both single loop courses. I participated in the half. A little course description for you. The half marathon had a cumulative gain of 2,200 feet, and the first 1,000 feet was within the first 4 miles. So a mile in, your heart is pumping. And then something interesting about a mile and a half in as well, we had unwelcome family of bees attack several runners. Thankfully, I was not one of them. The course was very technical, mainly single track. We had 2 aid stations. Around mile 4.7 was our first one. It was very well placed. Volunteers, their energy, incredible. About mile 7, we went around a lake. So for the first time, the trail opened up and it widened because it was a carriage trail, and you were able to finally open your stride. It was rolling hills, little rocks, and what was nice too is I could actually finally look up to enjoy the lake view because I wasn't worried about falling, which was nice. And because you opened up your stride, you could actually move a little bit quicker. So I definitely try to take advantage of that and get a little more distance. And that took you to the next aid station, which was aid station 9. And like I said, they were very well placed, amazing volunteers. And I should have known better. So we only have here, it's mile 9. There's only 4 miles left. And we are still climbing rock scramble. And just when you thought it was over, it wasn't over. You thought you got to the top and you turned and you're still going. But I promise you, it was well worth it with the incredible views and vistas we did get to enjoy. And I did stop because I deserved it for working so hard. The photographer was at the top as well, so he did take our pictures, which was nice. And like I said, we got a beautiful day. It was cool. It never really got too hot. Once we got to the top, I did expect to really enjoy the downhill at this point. And I never got the downhill I expected. I did go down, but I don't know how because I never felt like I did. But the course was challenging and fun, and the energy. I want to say there was about 150 participants altogether. And then you finish right where you started. And like I said, there was music and the volunteers were great. Kim custom made the medals. So here it is for you, Big Bear Squatch, for you to enjoy. Something also fun, all the runners get these collapsible cups, and you use them on the course, so leave no trace, which I think is amazing. And I would highly recommend this event and all of Kim's events, and I hope you enjoyed my little race recap. Thank you.
And then also in New York, the inaugural Run It to the Summit ran at Song Mountain in Tully, New York. EJ Boyce took the overall single loop win with a time of 7:23, with Erica Zazzara for the women's win in 9:37. For the double, AJ Beers took the win in 19:21, and Laura Kline for the women's in 26:06. And Laura, friend and teammate, was awesome enough to get this clip in to cue us into the inaugural Run It to the Summit. So take it, Laura.
Laura Kline here, checking in from Syracuse, New York. This past Sunday, I participated in the inaugural Run It to the Summit. It took place at the Song Mountain Ski Resort in Tully, New York. It's the first event hosted by Miles and Macros, the husband and wife team of Jared and Lauren Burdick. They offered two options. You could do the single summit, which included about a half mile up the face of the ski slope with over 500 feet of climbing, or you can run the double, where once you reach the top, you descend to the base using one of the side ski trails, and that was just under a mile, and then you run up that same summit a second time. I ran the double. I was 4th overall and first female in a time of 26:06, which seems pretty slow in comparison to the overall winner. Our local speedster AJ Beers completed the course in 19:21. It's really cool to have an event of that style here in central New York. I'm excited to watch it grow. I'm sure it's going to at least double in size next year. Everyone had a great time, and I think everyone loved these beautiful handmade trophies that we received. So thank you, Jared and Lauren. Up next for me is the Ragged 50K this Sunday in Danbury, New Hampshire. It's serving as the 50K Trail National Championship, so there should be some great competition there. The course is actually, I think, around 33 miles with over 6,000 feet of climbing, so it'll be a challenging day, but the weather's looking great. It's also part of a 3-day stage race, the Ragged 75, so those runners start on Friday, and Sunday we'll all be running that same course together. It'll be a good time. Can't wait to see how it goes. Hope everyone's having a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
All right, bouncing up to Vermont. The Moosilaumoo Ultra 14 and 36 miler ran in Goshen. 54 finishers in the 36 miler. Amanda Quinlan of Manchester took the overall win in 6:29, and the 7th fastest women's time on the course was 2nd place and top dude being Jason Gray in 6:35. In the 14 miler, Nathan Lalonde took the overall win in a field of 81 finishers, with Caitlin Quinn for the women. Both times placed them as 2nd fastest in the distance's 2-year history for the event. Bouncing down to West Virginia, the Miners Lady 8-hour in Harper's Ferry. Miners Lady sounds like a beautiful timed event. It uses a 10K loop where the Blue Ridge Mountains meet the Shenandoah River, offers 850 feet of elevation gain, which includes mountains, single track, waterfalls, and creek crossings. It capped out, I believe, and this is definitely one on my radar to maybe jump into. I've been a little bit so-so on the idea of timed event, but I did reach out from friend and awesome all-around individual, Grayce Langheine. She was able to pick this one off this year, and she was able to weigh in with this clip cueing us into Miners Lady.
Oh, hey, Trails Collective. This is Grayce Langheine, aka Hot Pants, coming to you with a race recap of the Miners Lady 8-hour. Just came back from it. I did it last weekend. It was my 3rd year on this race, 3rd year that the race has been around. It is a timed event, a 10K 6.2 mile loop in West Virginia, right where the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Shenandoah River meet. It's a beautiful area. Awesome race. Want to tell you all about it. Race directors are Katie Thompson and Sarah Hodder. Phenomenal race directors, really have their stuff together. Nobody gets lost. You know, the course is really well marked. Cupless race. They do some trail maintenance ahead of time that you can join in on, which is a lot of fun. And every time you come in, the 6.2 mile loop, right? So every time you come in, they change the theme of the aid station throughout the day. So it goes from being your birthday to it goes to being Christmas. Like they change holidays throughout the day. It's a lot of fun. There's also Johnny's Challenge. If you do at least a 50K, every time you come around, you take a shot. And if you do all of the shots, so 5 shots, then you've completed Johnny's challenge. I did it year 1 and year 2. This year I did not because I forgot. Oh, I was so mad. I was on my second loop, like a mile down from my loop, and I just yelled shit really loud because I totally forgot to take my shot. So I ended up not doing Johnny's challenge. Well, this year, winners for the year. Male was Daryl Dorsey. Female, Laura Bergman. She was a hoot as she passed me. Oh man, she's chatting with me. We had a good time. We're talking about the Olympics, pretending like we were in the Olympics. Super fun person. Little Miss Sunshine was Anna Bax. She's awesome, a ray of sunshine. She was so nice. I passed her in the last, it was about a mile from the finish. We were both doing the 50K. About a mile from the finish, and I swear she was the happiest person to get past. It didn't make it. It kind of felt bad, but you know, you gotta run your own race. So I ran my own race. Stubborn Blood went to John Deaches. There was a lot of blood on the course, not too much. There weren't any terrible injuries, but there were people who went down. I was one of them. It's a guy who passed me, and I felt a little inspired. I was like, okay, he's running good. I need to speed up a little bit. This is a flat section, so I should start going a little faster, and then just boom, down. Yeah, not the time to go faster. Race is capped at about 140 runners, so it's tiny, real small vibe, and everybody's just super nice. Because you got that little lollipop part, you get an opportunity to say good job to everybody, and everybody absolutely does. They usually have people playing music out on the course. I think this year somebody was playing, was it the banjo? I'm not sure. And that's a lot of fun. There's random volunteers out there just to cheer you on, and as long as you complete at least 3 loops this year, everybody got a hammock. Now they change it every year. This year was a hammock. I thought about doing my race report from the hammock, but these trees, they're not going to support all of this. That's not happening. So I ended up not doing that, but love my hammock. Had a great race. Year 1 when I did this was 2018. That was the first year of this race, and I finished a 50K in 7 hours 50 minutes. Year 2, 2019, finished a 50K in 7 hours 51 minutes. So this year I stayed conservative, said, you know, maybe I'll try 7 hours 45 minutes and do a 50K, feel good. Just did a 50K 2 weeks prior, and this course has about 750 feet per 10K loop. So it's not flat by any means, not mountainous either. The uphills, aside from, there's one steep one, and then the rest of the uphills are fairly runnable. There's a lot of the uphill that's a real gradual climb coming out. And so I thought, okay, 7:45. Oh, no, not at all. I smashed it. 7 hours, 11 minutes for my 50K. Felt really good, but the weather was amazing. That humidity just dropped right out, and we started in the 60s and finished out the race probably high 70s. So nothing like that we've seen before. Usually that race, middle of July, usually it's in the 90s. It's pretty hot. So I had an awesome time at the Miners Lady 8-hour down in West Virginia. Usually there's camping. They didn't do camping this year because of the COVIDs. But usually they have camping the night before. There's an after party nearby, and it's it's just a blast. It's just one big trail party. Hope you can join us next year. Thanks so much for listening to me, Trails Collective. You have an awesome day.
So well done, Grayce. That is an awesome effort, and thanks so much for weighing in with that clip. So we'll cue you into a couple events ahead for this coming weekend, maybe the one after, and then I will cue us into the more feature-length clip that will take us out with this episode. So the weekend ahead, August 7th, the Dahlgren Heritage Rail Trail 50K in King George, Virginia. This is one that I do have in my Flat and Fast lineup on the features articles on the Trails Collective site. The Gremlin Gallop 5K in Chicora, PA. It benefits a Carn City Cross Country. August 13th, on the Bacon Trail, the Naylor Mill Trail 7K in Salisbury, Maryland. This is one that's lodged on my radar since last year. The concept, you got to choose between being on the bacon, scrapple, or veggie teams, though it's most likely that bacon will get the win regardless. It's kind of a stacked judging there. The crew advertises it as the toughest on the Delmarva and as hot, humid, and with trails that never seem to end, and with a ton of bacon for the eating and winning. So that one's pretty cool. Check that out if not already. August 14th, Cult Classic, the Jarman's Invitational Marathon 30-miler in Cruz, an amazingly wonderful event up and down Jarman's. I forget what the gain is on each time up this gravel road and coming back down. It'll both crush and bring you to a pretty sweet trail community. I think it really makes a difference in how hot it is and how much it beats you down that day. And if not already, if you haven't watched it this month, as you should probably watch it monthly, you should take in this Cruz running video from Jimmy and Denton, and I will plug it in the show notes. 6 Hours in Lover's Lane in Chester, Vermont makes use of a mixed trail 2-mile loop and an all-comers vibe. The Soupy 7-hour summer self-supported endurance race, making use of a 4.43 mostly single-track loop in Williamsburg, Virginia. So let's do that, just these 2 weeks ahead, and then next week I'll get into maybe back half of August. All right, so an event that went down, I think it was just a week or so ago, was the Ouray 100. This is one that's been on my radar, I think, since its first year. It is one that runs on the flank of Hard Rock, and it's, it doesn't have the, I guess, name recognition. It doesn't have the history, but it definitely has all of, I think, what Hard Rock brings in terms of course. It's got I think it's 38,000 or 40,000 feet of elevation gain for the 100-mile. It's pretty extended sections between aid, and it's just absolutely spectacular. I am nearly certain I am not tough enough to take that on. Otherwise, it would definitely be, I think, on my radar to get out there and do it. And one who did was friend Eric Kosek, as well as Bob Bauer. The clip ahead is going to be with Sayard on Eric Kosek, but a big shout out to Bob Bauer as well. I think he ran the 50-mile. And went out, and I think he finished really well, kind of crushed the final descent. So nice work, Bob. But Eric Kosek has been coached by Sayard Tanis, another great endurance athlete and mountain runner in her own right. But as a team, they've been focusing on this for a couple of years. And so I wanted to dig in with both of them. And coming from Sayard, just how it's been from the coaching vantage point of training somebody for such an intense event, as well as being out there to both support and just see it all shake down. And so Sayard was, I'm thankful that she followed up doing just that, to really dig us into how that went leading up to, and how the event went down for Eric. And I'll weave in some photos here and some clips maybe from some of their training efforts. So I'm going to send us off with this. About, I think it's a 25-minute clip or so, digging into the Ouray 100. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Big congrats to both Sayard and Eric, as well as Eric's family and crew on the effort. And for me, I will see you next week. Till then, see ya!
Hi Trails Collective, this is Coach Sayard Tanis. I just got back from Ouray, Colorado, and I wanted to tell you about the experience that I got to have out there as a coach and as a friend, helping out Eric Kosek and his family and friends as he completed the Ouray 100-mile foot race. So this dream of Eric's started over 2 years ago, and I got involved as his coach, and I had to comprehend the amount of elevation gain that would happen over these 100 miles out in Colorado at altitude. So once Eric gave me all the stats on the race, I started doing research as far as what the course description was, looking at YouTube videos from racers in the past, reading race reviews, just trying to get every bit of information I could about the race so that we could figure out the best way to prepare him to face the conditions. It's been 2 years worth plus of hard work for Eric, putting in the consistency to lay that foundation and build the fitness that he needed to complete the 100 miles out there. we really did not know what 42,000 feet of elevation gain and loss would feel like on his body and how the body would hold up. All we knew is we could build it to be as strong and ready to handle it as possible. I had him doing high intensity VO2 max work, not only for the fitness benefits, yes, but more so even so that I could hope that he would be able to handle the altitude effects. So once a week he was hitting those very hard, building strength there, building efficiency there with oxygen carrying capacity. I had him doing hill repeats at least once a week, some form of hill work, whether it was powering uphill. We did a lot of downhill work, knowing that the descents could really tear up his quads over that many miles. Long runs, I did format them a little bit differently as we went along, because I looked at this more as how to build someone for a multi-day event, because he was going to be out there a very long time. That was the difference of how I would prepare someone for a 100-mile race that had, you know, let's say 10 to 20,000 feet of elevation gain. So long weekends, back-to-back long runs, 3 to 4 quality workouts in one weekend, just putting them back to back with each other, making him do a quality run in the morning, quality run at night. So he might have 4 big workouts within 2 days. And I wanted his body to be able to keep turning around and performing again. I had him do a lot of quality work within his long runs so that he would know how to push through and have that quality again after already feeling the fatigue of miles and climbing. Having him do hours of climbing before hard mile repeats, and then right back into hours of climbing again. Getting those transitions working where he could start turning his legs over again into running after a significant amount of climbing. That was just the foundation. Then we started getting a little more specific as we got closer to race time. And that's when things got even more fun, to figure out how best to build his body to take that beating. So there were big weekends. We had a week in the Adirondacks where Eric was able to have 6 solid days. Going in, the goal was to have 6 to 8 hour days with 5 to 10,000 feet of elevation gain per day, and just do that day after day after day to have his body adapting to that type of intensity. Fet Training Camp 2021. This is how the mornings go. This is the life of an ultra runner. We start at 3:30 a.m. on vacation. And it's what we do day in and day out.
Never ends.
It never ends. And it's amazing. And that meant getting up at 3 a.m. on vacation out in the Adirondacks and hitting those big climbs that we don't necessarily have access to right close to home in Pennsylvania. So he did take that trip to the Adirondacks to get some longer climbs in. And once he came back and recovered from that, bounced back, had a super long weekend where one morning had run 3 hours hard in a race, then turning right around and doing an all-nighter. We did an all-nighter of a 1,000-foot hill repeat and ended up hitting 15,000 feet of gain for that final climb weekend.
At 7:30, if we get down here at 7:30, this motherfucker's not doing another one.
Well, what if we're close to 15K?
I don't care about numbers.
You
Fuck you. You can worry about your
If
numbers.
we get down here and we have 30 minutes, we can go up for a little bit.
You know what I'm saying. I don't care about a full another loop and staying out here till fucking...
No, we don't have to do that.
Come on, I'm just crazy.
We're almost done.
I know.
That, in my opinion, was for the descending, to make sure his quads could hold up to all those descents. So that 15,000 gain, I was banking on holding him together through the end of Ouray. I knew that was going to be 3 weeks out, let his quads repair, and they would be solid to go into the race. So that's a little bit of an idea, so you know what Eric was having to do consistently not only for the last year, but for the year before as well. So we head out to Colorado. I was privileged enough to be able to go along with his family, Becky and Lauren and Casey. And then Laura and Logan also went out to help, and they were also there to pace him too. So we had a team ready to help get him through this. And we get out there. The beauty of the mountains is very hard to describe because it really leaves you in awe. It's breathtaking. We're getting closer and closer into town, and the mountains are just growing up and up where you can barely even turn your head far enough to see the tops. And you look out and you can tell that there's mountains behind mountains, and it's just endless, and you don't even know what you can't see from the mountains that are directly in front of you. And that's right where we're staying, right in town. We can look out and see these gigantic mountains, all the trees, the different rocks, the striations, the formations, and it really is mind-blowing and just leaves you so thankful that you're able to witness something like that and be in an area of such different beauty than we're used to seeing here on the East Coast. We did a few little shakeout runs trying to feel out how we'd be feeling at altitude, and you could definitely notice a bit of a difference as far as like heart rate and your breathing rate, but it seemed like most all of us were holding up pretty well. And I had been concerned that anyone on the team, not only Eric, but any of the crew and pacers might have been affected. So it seemed good that no one was coming down with like mountain sickness issues. We get to race day finally, and I can't even explain my excitement and emotions going into that day. The prep work, the lists that we had prepared for the gear and nutrition and hydration, was very important. We had planned it out definitely to keep Eric on top of his hydration, and even more so with being at altitude, knowing that he needed to stay hydrated, keeping the carbs going. His fuel had to be on point, whether he felt good or not. As is the case with most ultras, you got to get the people to keep eating so they can keep moving. And Becky is just incredible with her organization in their crew vehicle, and the girls are on top of it. They know what to get when. They're looking to us for cues as to what to get from aid stations for him. So we had a really strong team going in to support him on this race, and we were all stoked. All right, so the race course itself, it is basically designed to hit the highlight peaks in Ouray. And as such, there are a lot of out and back portions on this course. Most of it is all out and backs. Made it easy for the crew because we just really had one main drag that we had stops along, but it left the runners having to repeat a lot of the same portions, and they were out there alone for quite a while without accessing crew. Race starts, and Eric, is looking excited, and we don't get to see him for the first 27 miles, and we were banking on 8 to 10 hours. So we really are just looking at our trackers, the live trackers that we had, and we were told they may come in and out with service. We would see them pause sometimes or freeze or wouldn't show up. So we were constantly refreshing, hoping we could kind of see where Eric was and how he was doing, and it looked like he was just killing it, just going out real strong, solid. We were pumped and just like really excited to see him at the first aid station. Coming into that aid station, I could see in his eyes he was not happy. He just had said Imogene's pass had wrecked him, and he was done. So we're all there. The girls are there, Becky's there, I'm there. We all are waiting to fill everything, and Eric's saying he's done. Mile 27, and that is not how we saw this day going at all. So we quickly kind of rallied our brains and emotions to kind of wrap our heads around what he was saying, and knowing he's going back out there, and just a matter of how long it's going to take us to get him ready to carry on. As a coach, I can't explain the amount of emotional investment I have in every athlete and in all of their dreams become my dreams. This race was also my race as far as the amount I felt the importance of it, and knowing that I just wanted him to finish with every part of my being. So for him to say he's done, he's out, I just couldn't accept it. I did not believe he was done and out. I believed with all of my heart that he was finishing that race, and I really couldn't accept any other conclusion. So I knew he was going back out. I can't deny that the altitude has a significant effect. His legs, he said, were dead. The storms that rolled in were intense. In this area, it's very different from this area where it's usually like a full rainy day. There they have huge thunderstorms rolling in throughout the afternoons, usually very intense lightning. They might hit one mountain but not another. If they come in earlier in the day, it can be really intense with storms throughout noon on. So it's really hard to predict the weather out there at all. And Eric did get caught in a very severe thunderstorm, downpour. He was up high above tree line, which was one of our main concerns, that he would get trapped above tree line with extreme lightning. And I mean, the worst case scenario started coming true. So he was drenched. It's cold up high. Another thing that's hard to really come to terms with when you're used to 1,000-foot climbs around our area, but when you're up at 11,000, 13,000 feet up, it gets really cold really fast, and if you're wet, your body temperature is going down. So although Eric had his rain jacket and gloves and some other gear, he was completely drenched. His body temperature dropped, completely tanked. He was scared. He got to see flash floods, as he was describing, mudslides that took out the trail completely. I could see in his eyes, it was intense out there, and he was concerned, scared. He was freezing. He was shaking cold. His hands were completely white. That's a tough place to be when you are feeling that miserable and that worried about the conditions up there. To force yourself to go back out cannot be an easy thing to do. At that point, I'm his friend. I just want to hug him and make sure that he's safe and sound and happy. But I knew he had to continue on with this race, and I had to weigh in my mind, was the risk of him going back out worth finishing? And was the risk that high, or did it just feel that high? So we got him changed and dried and got the heat blasting in the car and told him he was going on. The discussion, as I'll call it, that we had was intense, and it took a lot of emotions and a lot of energy, and I just felt like I was completely willing him to go on. And came down to he got back out of that car, and he's the one that took that step to continue on, and I couldn't have been prouder. So off he went, and I was a bit concerned that, you know, he would hit some more bad weather and it would keep pouring. So we quickly rushed around and tried to come up with an idea to get him some more gear. And this is another amazing thing about trail runners. We told one runner from Pennsylvania, Mike, that we could really use some extra gear to keep Eric warm. And he gave what he had, and no sooner I'm getting messages from other runners from Pennsylvania that heard that Eric could really use some gear, and they're all getting together their warm gear for him. Becky went out and picked up some gear. I went out and picked up some gear, and we were ready to go for whatever condition he came back in at the next aid station. So it really is a great community that comes together to help people get to their goals. We all know what that feels like when goals are slipping away, and we want to do everything we can to hold it together. So after Eric continued on, you know, as he took more and more steps, when he came back through that next loop, we could even see his pace on the tracker. It was picking up again, and it's like, yes, he's moving again. And we didn't really want to mention anything about it, just, you know, get him what he needed and get him out again so that, you know, there was no more chance of him wanting to drop out. And we really wanted to get to the point where he could have a pacer. So pacers were allowed after mile 53, and Becky was up to pace him first, and I was so thankful. I knew he would just, have renewed life when he was able to get moving with her out there, and it was pitch dark night by that time, but the storms had passed. They got to do that climb together, and as I saw their headlamps go off together, I just felt this relief, like he's past halfway, he has Becky, and he's gonna keep moving. So we get through the first night, and at that point, we're looking at possibly 2 days, 2 nights with this race. So the first night isn't just the only big challenge as far as getting through a night without sleep. Morning came and he was still moving right along, moving solid, and it wasn't always pleasant, but the beauty and all the different sights that he got to see, the meadows that we had only been able to see from down low. When you get up high, you can see all this grass and you think, oh, Sound of Music, we could just like roll around up there, but what is it really like up there? And then I get a text from Eric that says, I made it to the meadows, and I just felt this joy inside that he's experiencing all this. And when I got to be out there with him to see the vastness of it and just take breaks once in a while, and it was okay to just take it all in and really let it hit us where we were, what we were seeing, how fortunate we are to be out there, how fortunate we are to be able to push our bodies like this and compete and just experience different levels of emotions, and how far low you can be and still come back up to know the people that are rooting for you, people you don't even know. I was reading Eric's posts, people were commenting, following him, their kids were following him, strangers were following him. I just tried to express to him how much inspiration he is to people and was by pushing forward, and that these people are really cheering for him and counting on him to continue, and that he had to finish this race, and friends. So it was the combination of complete suffering and complete awe and thankfulness in the moment out in those mountains. These mountains that at a time he was doing 3,000, 4,000 foot climbs every single segment that he went out. And just the grind that is, mentally and physically, but yet being rewarded with these incredible views that hardly anybody gets to have, and just soaking that up, being out there with him and talking to him about how we share energy. And with ultra runners, they're looking to him as an inspiration, and what he's doing is going to help them push through something really, really hard in their lives. And then they're going to put it all out there in hopes of inspiring somebody else. And it's just this cycle that continues. And we rely on each other. I feel that ultra runners really kind of gut themselves for each other, because that's just how this works. It's how we all keep going, and we find the strength to do things we don't think we could do. And it's really not about ourselves. It's about the other people that are out there that we love, that they love us. And, that's just what really powers all of us to get through these hard things. So it means something so much deeper than just a race or just getting yourself through a race. It's about what it represents to a lot of other people, to his kids, to family and friends, what that's really inspiring. So I tried to help him remember that in the moment, as rough as he felt, that it is even something greater than himself that he's out there for. I'm still wearing I'm very proudly wearing my pacer band as long as it'll stay on, because it really is an honor to be part of something that huge. So the hours went on, and we're going to be coming back into the night, and there were 16 total segments. We had to go another 22 miles without having any crew access. So there are long stretches where these runners don't have a crew. They can finally have their pacers after 53, and then going into the final stretches, I could see the relief on Eric, like that he knew each one was checking closer and closer to the end. He was cycling through pacers, so he got to have fresh company and help with Laura and Logan, and I know that really sparked him to push through those stretches. And then going into the final stretch, which is just cruel but amazing that they give a 11-mile stretch for the final push with almost 5,000 feet of gain in one single climb to finish this off. And it's dark and it's out there. We called it we were going to Mars, and it just seems like you're never going to get to that hole punch that you have to hit at the peak. And you're climbing and climbing and being above in the 12,000 foot range for hours climbing and not having the energy and the oxygen that you're used to having. And Eric on 90 plus mile legs at that point, and he's still pushing and grinding it out. It was incredible to see him do that mentally, and then also to see how his body held up and it kept cooperating through all of that. And then the emotions start flooding in, like, he's doing this. I always knew he'd do it, but to actually be there and know he is doing this and he's about to finish it off, it's undescribable, really. So we'd had our trip out to Mars in our bubble with our headlamps, and it's a magical feeling and a wonderful connection that you get to make with people when you know them at that level. Eric came in, and you think like you've accomplished something so amazing, so incredible, and it's pitch dark coming into the parking lot. No one cheering, no one in sight. There's no big finish line or lights. It's 2 cones out there, but his wife Becky and his 2 daughters Lauren and Casey are there, and I mean, what more could he need as he finished that off at 2 a.m. So he finished that race in 41 hours and 56 minutes, and he gutted it out the entire way. I don't have the final numbers yet on the number of finishers, but to give you an idea, there were, I believe, 130 registered, 120 started the race, and we're looking about around 30 that finished. So he's one of 30 to 33 finishers in a race that started with 120 runners. Yeah, you can see how I feel. I hope I'm able to insert some pictures here so you guys can imagine how amazing it is out there, and again, just how privileged I felt to be there as a coach and as a friend. I will never ever forget it. This is what makes life worth it, really. This is living. As I kept saying, this is living. So congratulations, Eric, to you and your family, and thanks for letting me be there, and thank you, Trails Collective, for hearing my story about it. And I'm glad I was able to make it through without crying the whole time. So good luck out there, guys, and remember, we're always sharing our energy and helping each other through the hardest times.